we'll give this a try, and if we need to do it
This
next
is
week, we'll do it next week.
Yeah, this is the thing. This is We're gonna warn people. Well,
Mhm.
this is might be another episode that we have to release later on as a hey, we screwed up. We'll call these. This might be another Frasier episode because we have a guest today, Andrew. Who do we have?
We do. So
I
we
am
have. Go
Lisa
ahead.
Lutwyche, aka Max Headroom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we might get some recollections of Max Headroom here.
yeah.
But we're very excited to have Lisa because she is the writer for the illegal scam hold music that we
And she
released a
does
few
all
months
the
ago.
zodiac poems. We need to add
She
that.
does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Beautiful poems. All that. And kind of our writer in residence, I guess. Um,
Jealous.
so to start the timer, we have a tradition.
Yeah, yeah. We have a rule, and that rule is I go, "Hi, Andrew."
Hello, Brandon. And now we can say
Start
hello,
that time.
Lisa. All right.
Hello, Brandon. Hello, Andrew.
So,
Um,
what was your experience with illegal scam hold music? Like, how did you get onboarded?
Yep.
What did you think of it? All that other good stuff.
Well, it was another one of those things where I get this Facebook message from Andrew saying, "So, you interested in another little project?" And I'm like, "Okay." That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Usually how it goes. And it was intriguing to me because I always think of the whole music thing as almost a sensation of being kidnapped, and it was something I
mm,
really wanted to explore because you have a reason for calling whatever the number is, right? Sometimes it's a more urgent reason. Sometimes it's a semi-urgent, and everybody thinks their reason is urgent. But sometimes it's a strictly very urgent thing. So when Andrew said he wanted to sort of explore, I can't remember exactly how you described it to me, but you wanted to explore the sort of perils of being on hold. And so when I get an idea like that kind of coming at me from the universe, the first thing I do is I start applying what if questions, right? Particularly because I write fiction and I'm a playwright. And so I'm like, okay, so let's take this and say, what if? What if someone's house is on fire and they're on hold? What if someone is calling an emotional hotline and they're in some serious trouble emotionally and potentially dangerous and they're put on hold? And what if a person thinks they have a semi-emergency and it's okay, it's not really an emergency, but that person feels that their message is just as urgent as the person whose house is on fire. So I wanted to explore those different layers and different levels, and then talk about just how vicious and cruel the whole system is. So those were the two prongs of my what if. I wanted to create scenarios where the viewer or listener gets to experience those different levels and senses of urgency. And yeah, there goes Max Headroom is back. Um, and at least you can still hear me.
Yeah. Keep going. Just
yeah.
please.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, stop. And the other thing was I wanted to just play with the characters, let the character.
Yeah.
A lot of times, as a fictional writer and as a person who writes scripts, I tend not to put words in the mouths of my characters. And when I teach creative writing, I tell people, no, 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 you're not putting words. We're not puppeteers. We're not putting words in the mouths of ventriloquist dummies.
Mm,
I'm doing is I'm eavesdropping, but I have to believe in the characters and the scenarios enough that I can step away and just listen to what's
mm.
unfolding with them, which is, it's really fascinating. And I never know where it's going to go. But like
Yeah.
I said, it all starts with a what if.
That's really interesting. And I like how you're talking about the different approaches because I think one of the things that I really like about the script is that it does have all those different angles because there are, I know when we were first talking, I think one of the things that I said to you is that I tend to gravitate towards the more darker side of things. And you definitely included like some very emotional stuff in there. But you also had some lighter things to really incorporate that. And I think that's one of the things I like is that, all the different characters, they really do have their own voice, and they're all scenarios that I think that, I mean, at least I can relate to, and I think a lot of people have probably been in very similar situations, I think.
Hopefully, not all of them.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah. Go ahead, Brandon.
so when you were writing, I know we had to do a few rewrites on this. What was the hardest part for you while working on this piece?
So at first, I tend right. So I'm a playwright, right? So I tend to want to write something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I realized that it was more effective to fragment this. So each little fragment still had to have a narrative arc, right? It had to. Like even if it was, three little bits, it had to have its own narrative arc. So it would carry you to the next one and you would feel either a sense of cliffhanger or a sense of um, you know, wanting to invest more in the character. But every little fragment, every little piece of script had to have its own narrative arc. And by that I mean, it gets somewhere. You get from one place to another place over the course of that small fragment. And that was hard. It was hard to get that to happen in those smaller bits. And then to create an overall narrative arc and a sense of momentum that carried the whole piece all the way through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and go ahead.
Cool. No, I did one. You do one, Andrew.
Well, no, and it's interesting because the the way that I think that was accomplished, I think was really creative because you had the four different people, but you're right, like there's a lot being told, even though there's really only a few lines, in some cases, only a few lines of
Right.
dialogue, and but there's a lot being told, even just within those. So I think that's one of the interesting things I think about it, and that a lot of it there's a lot left up to the listeners
That's right.
imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's part of the magic of it, is that you can kind of fill in the gaps with your own experiences and kind of relate to what these characters are going through.
And I wanted each character to have a life that exists outside of the script.
Mhm.
So the character had to feel alive to me in each case, outside of the scenario that they were in. So there was that person existed before and that person exists after. And I want that always to come through in what the characters are saying.
Mhm.
So that kind of comfortably leads to my next question that I'm really interested in. You've written for plays, but what is it like writing for only a sound thing? Like there is no stage direction, there is no do that. There you can do this with your voice, but you can't say walk over here. There is no talking. What were the challenges of that, and also what parts did you like?
Oh wow, that's an interesting question. So I had never written like a radio play, right? I had never written, and actually, normally I've been told over the years that my writing is very visual, like my fiction is visual. I was once introduced at a poetry reading as a painterly poet, which is interesting because I'm also a visual artist. But to strip all that visual out and know that it was only going to be perceived audially, whatever the word is for that, auditorially.
Well,
Yeah,
look at your big words, aren't
yeah,
you?
I can't help it. Yeah, I'm a writer. So that was an interesting piece of the challenge, which made it that much more significant that the characters had to feel alive. Because I wasn't, normally I would give a character some kind of visual identification. They might walk funny or they might have a habit, right? You're not going to get that in just a sound bite. So I had to pack a lot more personality into what they were saying, and I had to feel the person. So again, it's not like I'm making them. It really is when I write fictional characters, they're alive to me, and I'm just kind of following along. And if that ever stops, I won't be a writer anymore. But I do enjoy that. And I kind of enjoyed the challenge in answer to the second half of your question. I did enjoy the challenge of knowing that it was only going to be heard because it meant that I had to be that much more cognizant of, well, there I go again. Had to be that much more cognizant of subtleties.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I think the Q-tip with alcohol on it or oil or something. It's the portal, I think.
I'm gonna be really honest. I like this. You're doing great answers, and that's great for what the theme of what Yonko is. This is like super Yonko.
Oh, it's perfect. No, you're
Yes,
right.
yeah, it
Yeah.
works really
You're
well.
absolutely right.
This
So
is
I
something
think
that we planned. This is a very expensive filter we're using.
it's another
Exactly.
way.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
I know. I understand. I respect your frustration, but watching your images go away while saying that you can't do images for this
Oh
was
my
a
God, we
level.
couldn't have made that happen.
Right.
Yeah, if you
Right.
did that on purpose, I'd be like, "This is okay. We're gonna redline that. That's a little too on the nose."
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
You know, I've done a lot of theater work. I don't get as flustered, maybe. I
Mm.
actually find it funny.
Yes.
so this one's done, and it's in the books, and we're very happy that it's done and in the books. What was your reaction when it was finished? Like, when you came across it, and you saw the finished product, because it was one that a lot of people worked on. Like, how did you feel when you finally saw the finished product?
I have two words: gobsmacked and honored.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, oh my God, this is so much richer than I even anticipated. I mean, I knew it was going to be interesting, but I knew it was going to be fun, and I knew it was going to be. I had no idea the kind of cast you were going to end up actually reading the parts, and I've worked with those people, a lot of them, and
Yeah.
that was just so humbling to me. It the whole thing came together as just such a magnificent opus. I mean, I had no idea that this little sketch that I started, my little what if, was going to be a part of something that was so much richer than I thought.
Did you get a chance to talk to Andrew, or he was at my wedding and I've lost his name for a second.
Marshall.
Marshall.
Oh,
Don't
Marshall. No,
uh,
I didn't talk to Marshall about it.
really? You didn't talk to the
I
director in
didn't
any way,
talk to
shape,
Marshall. No, no, I didn't.
So
Because
there, yeah.
he was sort of in another corner. I've been directed by Marshall. I know Marshall very well. But no, I didn't get to talk to him ahead of time, which is kind of interesting. That
Yeah.
script, you know, that's the way a play often works. You don't necessarily ever get to see it done
Mhm.
or talk to the director. It's awesome if you can, but it's what's really cool about it is that it was then taken. I was again humbled when I saw who was directing it, but it's taken, and it, depending on the level of quality of the script that you wrote, it's going to live or it's not going to live. You
Mhm.
know, it's hopefully got enough guts to it that a director can take it and do something meaningful with it. But you don't know that till the director takes it.
Yeah, and I think originally the plan was to have a kind of meetup, but just the schedules didn't work out because I think you were out of town for a while, and then Marshall was directing another play, and then that kind of
Was
thing.
it in
So
September?
yeah, that was
Yeah, because
yeah.
we were in the UK. Yeah.
Mhm. I think that that's one of the things that Brandon and I have talked about is, the number of people that were involved in this. Like all three of us and Marshall and, everyone and the actors as well. Like everyone has been involved in like much bigger productions. But
Yeah.
as far as like what we have done with Yonko, like this is a much bigger project and was a much longer process. But I think because of that, because of all the collaborations, like we ended up with a much richer much richer product
Yeah.
than I think that we would have otherwise, and it's nice to see how everybody contributed. Because even like, I mean, I don't think we've even talked about like, when we did the recordings or anything like that. But, we just, Marshall got the actors together and then we came and sat down and we just had this great sort of powwow and then just started recording, and then like everyone was just so into it and just so excited about it, and it was just fun to see that enthusiasm and just that camaraderie, even with something like this that
Yeah.
we had no idea what was going to happen with it, and it was just a lot of fun.
It is.
That's a creative process, though, right?
Mhm.
It's
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it
believers
is also a
one.
piece that is much bigger than I think any, at least I expected. And it is a series of very small pieces that are linked together.
Right.
in a way that creates a cohesive whole, or a somewhat cohesive whole. A hopefully cohesive whole is not our. We don't get to make that decision. Um, but that is something that was always illegal scam hold music. Expanded bigger than we ever expected.
Yeah.
In a
Certainly
lot
bigger
of
than I
different ways.
expected.
Yeah. Also, speaking of which, since we're wrapping this up at the end of it, both of y'all, I have stickers for this one that I can get you sooner than
Oh,
later.
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm running out because I'm giving them to people. So that's there. You don't see any air quotes there. It's just me saying.
No.
But yeah. So remind me that just when this is done, we should actually, you know what, also Andrew, I'll send you that image. This is us adding to it, and we should put that image in here maybe somewhere, or we shouldn't, because we already have that
Oh
other
yeah,
image,
yeah, sure.
because that is sort of the final product for me on that was doing the sticker part of it, because that's always the final Yonko thing is the sticker work at the very end and putting it out into the world and trying to get people to look at it, because that's hard, man.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I guess fine. Well, this has been awesome. Is there so thank you for talking with us, and this is a lot of fun, and thank you again for being part of the project as well
Yeah.
as all of our other projects as well. And probably many more in the future, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
we'll have you back on. We'll figure out the Max Headroom thing, or we'll just leave it because it's very that's like your
Exactly.
shtick now. Like
I
if
would leave it.
It
I
is.
mean, it's not my best. It didn't, accentuate my best features, but what the hell?
yeah, it did,
Um,
yeah, it was rough for a few minutes, but like in
Yeah.
like a cool way. Like it was
Yeah,
very
it can. Yes, you can
yeah
interpret it that way.
yeah.
At this point in my life, I'm not that proud. Just take it. I roll with it.